Imagine walking into a fancy London pub just for a quiet drink. No cameras, no chaos, just you, dressed casual, minding your business. But instead of a welcome, you're told, "We're fully booked." Not because they are, but because of how you look. What the pub manager didn't know? The guy he just kicked out was Cole Palmer, one of the coldest talents in the Premier League, and the actual owner of the place. What happens next? Well, let's just say he didn't need to raise his voice to drop the coldest lesson of the year. This is the story of power, respect, and why you should never judge the quiet ones. Sit back, subscribe, and drop your comments. Because this one, it's ice cold. Let us know in the comments. What would you do if you were in Cole's shoes? And who else deserves a story like this? Hit that like button if you believe respect shouldn't depend on appearances. Let's jump in. It's a Wednesday night in West London. Quiet streets, light drizzle, typical scene. But inside Stamford Bridge earlier that day, bedlam. Cole Palmer had just dropped another clinical assist in Chelsea's midweek league win. Calm, efficient, elite. It's just what he does now. He's no longer the new lad trying to make it. He is the guy. Week in, week out, game changer. The baller with the calmest head in the league. But away from the pitch, Palmer keeps things low-key. No noisy after-parties, no headlines about nights out. That's not his style. He's not interested in being seen. He's interested in building, quietly, carefully. So after the match and the media duties, he tells his driver to take a different route home. There's a place he's been meaning to drop in on. A little project he backed earlier in the year. A fancy gastro pub tucked between Notting Hill and Holland Park. Trendy crowd, subtle design, proper food. A place he co-owns, but no one really knows it. He gets there late, just as the after-work crowd starts to fade. No entourage, no Chelsea tracksuit, just Cole in a black hoodie, clean white trainers, cap low. He walks in like any regular lad looking to grab a pint or a late snack. The place is buzzing in that quiet, expensive way. Jazz playing, someone sipping a Negroni. Everyone looking like they just came from a startup board meeting or influencer event. Palmer doesn't mind. He actually likes that vibe. It's why he backed this pub. Grown, clean, relaxed. He steps up to the hostess stand. No one's there. So he walks in gently, spots an empty table near the back, and sits down. Nothing flashy. He just wants to feel the space out, take it in like a normal guest. But then he spots him. The general manager. Clean-shaven, tight waistcoat, AirPods still in, walking the floor like he's running a 5-star hotel, not a pub. His name's Marcus. Palmer recognizes him from the hiring dock. What Marcus doesn't realize? He's about to make the worst judgment call of his career. Marcus clocks Palmer's hoodie and cap, gives him the once-over. And you can already see the wheels turning. Wrong vibe. Doesn't belong. Probably a football kid trying to flex. Palmer sits quietly, waiting to be greeted. But all he gets are glances. No menus. No, "Can I get you anything?" Just that uncomfortable sense that he's not welcome here. He checks his phone. Keeps calm. He's not here to make noise. But as he sits there in silence, he knows. This is about to get interesting. And Marcus? He has no idea who he's just disrespected. Marcus was the type who prided himself on setting the tone. Sharp blazer, polished shoes, hair gelled within an inch of its life. He liked to believe he ran more than a pub. He ran an experience. And tonight, his radar pinged hard the second Palmer stepped in. The hoodie, the trainers, the quiet confidence. Marcus didn't like any of it. From across the room, he kept glancing toward Cole's table, whispering things to his staff. "Keep an eye on that one," he muttered to a waitress. "Make sure he doesn't wander upstairs." Palmer clocked all of it. The body language, the looks, the way no one approached him while other tables were getting menus, water, drinks. He wasn't being ignored by accident. This was deliberate, but Cole stayed calm. He wasn't here to prove a point, not yet. He leaned back slightly, scrolling his phone. Waited. Finally, Marcus made his move. Walked over with the kind of polite smile that comes dipped in vinegar. "Evening," Marcus said, already patronizing. "Do you have a reservation, sir?" Palmer looked up. "Nah, just thought I'd grab a drink." Marcus paused, lips pursed. "I see. Unfortunately, we're fully booked for the evening." Cole looked around. 4 empty tables in sight, not including the one he was sitting at. "Yeah?" he said casually. "Looks a bit quiet." Marcus forced a chuckle. "We space bookings out. Keeps the ambience. You understand?" Palmer nodded slowly, still chill. "I don't mind waiting." But Marcus wasn't having it. "I'm afraid that won't be necessary. We do have a dress code as well. Hoodies aren't usually permitted." There it was, the subtle dig, the tone that says, "You're not our kind of guest." Palmer let it sink in. No emotion on his face, no reaction, just a slow blink and a small breath through his nose. "Right," he said, standing up slowly. "No worries." Marcus tilted his head, smug now. "Appreciate your understanding." Palmer stepped past him calmly. No scene, no flex, just a quiet exit through the same door he came in. As he passed the front, a couple seated by the window looked up, one of them whispering, "Isn't that Cole Palmer?" Marcus heard it, flinched slightly, but didn't turn around. He didn't care if the kid was a footballer. He looked out of place, and that was enough. Palmer disappeared into the night drizzle, pulling his hood up. No anger, just a look in his eyes that said, "Bet." Because that wasn't just some cocky waiter. That was his pub. And that wasn't the end of the night. It was the beginning of the lesson. Outside, the London night was misty, the drizzle painting the pavement silver. Cole walked slowly, hands in pockets, hood up. Not because he was embarrassed, but because he was calculating. That moment inside the pub, he'd seen it coming. That look, that tone, that quiet, subtle disrespect. It didn't rattle him. He wasn't new to being underestimated, but this time, it hit different. Why? Because this wasn't just some random high-end spot. This was his, a place he had poured real money into, a place he believed in. And the people running it had just told him in no uncertain terms that he didn't belong. He reached the end of the block, stopped at a streetlight, and pulled out his phone. A message from his agent was already waiting. "How'd it go?" Cole didn't reply straight away. He took a deep breath, then typed, "I'll tell you tomorrow, but we're making some changes." He jumped in a cab and sat in silence the whole ride home. Not angry, just locked in. He wasn't about to go on Instagram and expose anyone. He wasn't going to call the media and leak the story. That's not his style. He lets his moves do the talking. Back home, he pulled up the investment folder on his laptop, scrolled through the pub's stakeholder structure, staff files, and internal reports. He found Marcus's name near the top, general manager, hired 6 months ago after the launch phase. No ownership, no stake, no clue. Palmer leaned back in his chair, thought about the people who walk into that pub every day. How many had been turned away like him, just because they didn't fit the vibe? How many regular lads came in for a pint and got the same treatment? That was the real problem. He didn't care that Marcus didn't recognize him, but he cared deeply about the fact that he was judged like any other stranger, and that meant others were too. He wasn't just insulted, he was exposed to the truth of his own business. And it wasn't good enough. He grabbed his phone and made a call. "Yo," he said, voice low. "Can you send me the latest internal report on the Notting Hill pub? I want to know what's happening day to day. Staff rotation, guest feedback, service times, everything." The voice on the other end replied instantly. "You good?" Palmer smiled to himself. "I'm very good. But someone else is about to be humbled." He hung up, stood and walked over to the window. Rain tapping the glass. city lights glowing quietly below. In 24 hours, he'd be back at the pub. Only this time, he wouldn't be asking for a table. He'd be taking command of the room, without saying a single loud word. Most people saw Cole Palmer as a baller, the one with the ice-cold pens, the calmest man on the pitch. But what they didn't see? Off the pitch, he was just as sharp, quiet, focused, always observing. While some players were chasing brand deals and nightclub launches, Palmer was buying into real assets, smart ones. The pub wasn't just a random purchase. It was personal. When he first walked through its doors, back when it was just a dusty shell of a property, he saw the vision instantly. Quiet luxury, minimalist decor, a menu that mixed class with comfort. A place he could retreat to, not as Cole Palmer the footballer, but just as Cole. So when the opportunity came up to partner with a hospitality group and back the venture, he didn't hesitate. He told his agent, "No PR, no headlines. I want this one quiet. I want to blend in." The pub launched under a boutique name, backed by a small team of silent investors. Cole's name never appeared publicly. The staff were hired by the management company, vetted through layers of admin. Most of them didn't even know who owned the place. They just knew it was funded by someone serious. And that's how he liked it. Until now. That night, after his call, Palmer sat with a tablet and flipped through the onboarding docs. There it was, Marcus Jennings, general manager. Previous experience, boutique hotel in Brighton, high-end restaurant in Kensington. Specialty, maintaining high standards and VIP service. Funny, he thought, all that experience and still no clue how to read people. He read through guest reports too. Some were glowing, but a few told a different story. Comments like, "Felt judged walking in." Staff seemed cold unless you were dressed posh. Not welcoming to everyone. That hit different now. It wasn't just Cole. It was a pattern. And it was his name, quietly behind the curtain, funding a space that was disrespecting people like him. People who walked in casually, just wanting a drink and a moment of peace. He closed the file, leaned back, and stared at the ceiling. It wasn't about ego anymore. It wasn't about being disrespected. It was about the culture of his business. And that had to change, immediately. He made one more call before bed, this time to the managing partner of the hospitality group. "Tomorrow I'm coming in, not as a guest, as the owner." The partner hesitated. "Want us to announce it?" Palmer shook his head. "No. Let them see it happen." Click. Call ended. Lights off. He lay in bed, hands behind his head, eyes wide open. Marcus had made a judgment call based on clothes, not character. Tomorrow, Cole Palmer was about to walk in dressed to own the place because he did. And this time, the lesson wouldn't be silent. Thursday morning hits different. It's one of those gray, muggy London days where nothing feels urgent, unless you're Cole Palmer. He's already up before sunrise, not because he has to be, but because he's ready to move. Chelsea training is on as usual. Palmer turns up early, quiet as always, headphones in, locked in. But today, he's not thinking about drills or the weekend fixture. His mind is replaying every second from last night at the pub. The silence, the looks, the fake smile from Marcus. On the training ground, he's razor sharp. Every touch crisp, every pass laser-guided. Even his finishes hit different. Top bins, bottom corners, pure ice. One of the lads jokes, "Yo, Cole, what's gotten into you today?" Palmer shrugs with that slight smirk. "Just clearing my head." The gaffer notices too, nodding from the sideline. He's dialed in today. But Cole's not trying to prove anything out here. He's already planned the next move, and after training, he doesn't waste a second. He hits the showers, throws on a clean fit, tailored black overcoat, charcoal gray jumper, navy trousers, fresh white sneakers, simple but sharp, classy, understated, but undeniably boss. He calls his driver. "We're heading to the pub." Then one more call to his investment partner. "Meet me there in 30. We're walking in together." As the Range Rover glides through West London traffic, Cole stares out the window, calm as ever. No playlist, no scrolling, just silent focus. He's not going there for revenge. He's not pulling up to embarrass anyone. This is business. And business is about standards. He arrives outside the pub just before sunset, the streets glowing gold. Locals are already inside, sipping wine, flicking through menus. But now, it's different. Cole isn't stepping in as a guest anymore. He's stepping in as the owner. As he waits outside for his partner to arrive, he notices a few glances from passers-by. One lad nudges his mate, whispering, "That's Cole Palmer, in it." But Palmer doesn't engage, just adjusts his sleeves and nods to his partner as he arrives. Together they walk to the door. Inside, the atmosphere is chill, like nothing happened. Jazz playing, drinks pouring. Marcus is on the floor again, playing conductor, smiling at guests, floating like he owns it. Then he spots Palmer walking in. The blood drains from his face. He recognizes him instantly, but not the way he did yesterday. No hoodie, no cap, no quiet customer. Now he sees the fit, the posture, the quiet swagger, and behind him, the managing partner of the entire operation. Marcus doesn't need anyone to say it. He knows. The man he dismissed yesterday, he owns the pub. The door didn't slam. There was no music cut, no dramatic pause. But when Cole Palmer stepped back into the pub, the entire energy shifted, whether people noticed or not. He walked in with smooth, deliberate steps. His coat hung clean off his shoulders, the tailored lines doing all the talking. His presence wasn't loud, but it was unmistakable. The kind of presence that made people turn without knowing why. Quiet power. Marcus, from behind the bar, caught a glimpse and nearly choked on his own confidence. The man he'd dismissed the night before, dismissed like some track-suited time-waster, was back, but not as a customer, as the owner. Behind Palmer, the managing partner followed in silence, giving a small nod to a few staff members. One bartender, Lucy, paused mid-pour. She leaned toward her colleague. "Is that him?" Her colleague whispered, "That's the guy Marcus kicked out." No one moved toward Cole because they were frozen, especially Marcus. Palmer didn't stop to explain. He walked straight to the best table in the place, the corner booth with the skylight above it, reserved only for top-tier bookings. He slid in calmly, folded his hands on the table, and waited. The partner leaned over to Marcus. "Might want to go say hello." Marcus adjusted his waistcoat, swallowed hard, and approached. "Mr. Palmer, I had no idea yesterday. I didn't recognize you. Palmer raised a hand, cutting him off without even looking up. "I'm not interested in apologies," he said, voice calm and even. "Take a seat." Marcus hesitated, then sat, still trying to recover from the shock, still running through his mistake. "I should have checked properly. I should have—" Cole finally looked at him, not angry, just disappointed. "You judged someone the second they walked in," he said, still calm. "Not based on how they acted, based on how they looked." Marcus tried to nod along, tried to frame it as standards and protecting the environment, but Palmer shook his head. "Your job is to make sure every guest feels welcome, not just the ones in blazers." Marcus went quiet. Palmer continued. "You made me feel like I didn't belong. Imagine how many others you've done that to, who couldn't just come back the next day and flip the script." That one landed. Marcus said nothing. Palmer didn't need to shout. The message hit harder because he didn't. After a pause, he leaned back slightly. "You're not being fired. Yet." Marcus blinked. "But this place is going to change," Palmer added. "Starting now." The silence said everything. Marcus nodded, eyes down, ego in pieces. The boss had spoken, And he hadn't raised his voice once. Marcus sat there like a man watching his house burn down from the inside. No shouting, no threats, just silence. And Cole Palmer's voice cutting through it like a scalpel. That hurt more than any public embarrassment could. For a manager like Marcus, image was everything. He'd spent his whole career mastering the look of authority, posture, tone, polish. But right now, he was exposed. All the polish in the world couldn't cover this. Palmer didn't gloat. He didn't smirk. He just stared at him with a calm that felt heavier than any lecture. "I read your guest feedback," Cole said, voice still steady. A few glowing, but enough to raise flags. Marcus swallowed hard. "We've had a few tricky guests." "People felt judged," Palmer cut in. "Not served, judged. That's on you." The managing partner stood off to the side, arms crossed, saying nothing. He didn't need to. Palmer had taken control of the room without ever raising his voice. "You've worked in hotels, restaurants, high-end stuff," Palmer continued. "So you know how to make a guest feel respected. And you chose not to." Marcus's ego was dissolving by the second. This wasn't just a mistake. It was a pattern, and Palmer had the receipts. "I didn't realize who you were," Marcus muttered weakly. "That's not the issue," Palmer replied. "You shouldn't have to." And there it was, the core of it all. Palmer didn't care that he was famous, didn't need special treatment. He just wanted to be treated like anyone else would want to be. That Marcus couldn't do that said more about him than about the hoodie Cole was wearing the night before. "You ever heard of second chances, Marcus?" Marcus nodded quickly. "Yes, absolutely." Palmer leaned in slightly. "Good, because I'm giving you one." A breath of relief, but it came with a warning. "You're going to stay, for now. But everything changes." Marcus nodded, still stunned. "Of course, whatever you need." Palmer slid a small folder across the table. Inside was a new service charter, something he and his agent had quietly drafted overnight. "Staff retraining starts Monday. Everyone." "Including you." Marcus opened the folder, saw the title. "Respect is the standard." "Get familiar with it," Palmer added. "Because next time someone gets turned away for the wrong reason, I won't be having a conversation." The message landed like a hammer, but without a single blow. Palmer stood, nodded once, and walked out. The room didn't fall silent because of who he was. It fell silent because of how he handled it. He didn't need to flex his status. He flexed his standards. The next morning, the staff walked into a different pub. Not physically, of course. The walls were still painted in that modern, muted gray, the light fixtures still hanging from the exposed beams. But something in the atmosphere had shifted. It was quiet, focused. Like everyone knew change had arrived. The "Respect is the standard" folders were already placed at every workstation, staff room, bar, even tucked behind the barista machine. Inside, clear, simple expectations written by none other than Cole Palmer himself, not as a footballer, as a business owner. Marcus had arrived early, sharp suit pressed, expression more serious than anyone had ever seen. No small talk today, no strutting. He called for an emergency team meeting. "I made a mistake," he said flatly. "Last night I treated someone unfairly. That someone turned out to be the owner." Gasps, side glances. A few mouths literally dropped. Marcus continued, voice humble. "But the truth is, I shouldn't have treated anyone that way, and from now on, we won't." He didn't cry. He didn't try to make himself a victim. He owned it. Maybe for the first time since joining the pub. That night, Palmer didn't show up. He didn't need to. His words were already working. The staff began to talk differently, greet differently. A young lad in a tracksuit came in around 8 p.m. A month ago, he might have been ignored. Tonight, he got the best seat in the house. And Marcus, he served him personally. Word started to spread, first among the regulars, then online. This place was different now. One review stood out. Walked in expecting attitude, got offered a menu, water, and a welcome smile. Fair play to whoever runs this joint. Marcus forwarded that review directly to Palmer with one line, "Working on it." Palmer replied, "Keep going." The gaffer didn't need to be there in person to lead. His quiet authority echoed through every action. No shouting, no threats, just a clear line drawn. Marcus didn't forget what Palmer said. "I'm not interested in apologies. I'm interested in standards." And it became a kind of mantra. In the days that followed, the pub didn't become perfect, but it became aware. The staff moved with purpose, treated every guest equally, greeted every walk-in like they were someone, because after all, they might be. And now, finally, they understood why that mattered. It didn't take long for people to notice something had shifted. The pub hadn't changed its branding. No press releases, no signs outside saying, "Under new vibe." But somehow, everyone who walked through the door could feel it. The service, sharper. The attitude, warmer. The atmosphere, still classy, but no longer exclusive. It was like the whole place had taken a deep breath and remembered what hospitality was actually meant to be. Marcus was a different man now. Not perfect. He still had that polished, posh tone. But he was present, focused. Less performative, more human. He made a point to greet every guest himself, regardless of what they were wearing or how much they looked like they'd spend. Staff were watching him closely. They saw the shift, and it started to ripple across the floor. From the bar to the booths, every team member took note. If the boss can change, so can we. The respect is the standard training kicked in properly that week. Led by an external consultant, someone Palmer's agent brought in, sessions were short, sharp, and real. No awkward role play, no corporate waffle. Just one key question repeated over and over. How would you want to be treated if you walked in here not looking your best? That question stuck, and slowly it rewired the team. Palmer didn't hover over the process. He didn't micromanage. He dropped in once during a late weekday evening in his usual low-key gear, hoodie, Air Forces, cap. And this time, he was greeted instantly. Marcus walked over personally, not over the top, just respectful. "Evening, Mr. Palmer. Table for one?" Palmer smiled slightly. "Yeah, same spot." He got the corner booth. No drama, no tension, just service. From the bar, Lucy watched it all unfold. She leaned toward a newer staff member and whispered, "That's the guy, owner. You'd never guess, right?" The new staffer blinked. "He's the one Marcus turned away?" Lucy nodded, and gave him a second chance. The word spread, but not like gossip, like a lesson. Behind the scenes, the numbers started changing too. Return visits increased. Online reviews improved. One post went semi-viral. A Chelsea fan posting a pic of Palmer casually drinking alone with the caption, "Cole Palmer owns this place and still gets treated like everyone else. That's real leadership." Palmer saw it. Didn't like the attention, but appreciated the message. He wasn't trying to be a brand. He was building a standard. And now, finally, the pub was starting to live up to it. In just a few short weeks, the place changed, from the inside out. Not because it rebranded or repainted, but because its culture shifted. It wasn't just a gastropub anymore. It was something more rare in the London scene, a place that was upscale without being uptight. Sharp, but not shallow. A bit like the man who owned it, Cole Palmer. People started talking, not loudly, not in headlines, but through whispers, reviews, and low-key social posts. The kind of chatter that matters more because it's genuine. "This spot's classy but chill." No attitude from the staff, even when I walked in straight from the gym. Heard a footballer owns it. Guy's got good taste. Word of mouth did the heavy lifting. And slowly, the pub became a destination. Not for influencers chasing clout. Not for posh snobs hunting oysters. For people who appreciated the vibe. Clean decor, proper service, no judgment. And sometimes, if you got lucky, you might spot Cole Palmer himself, sitting quietly in the back with a green tea or a low-key pint, hoodie up, head down, watching the match on mute, never drawing attention, never asking for anything. One night, a group of young Chelsea fans walked in, all wearing kits. They looked around nervously, half expecting to be turned away. Marcus, now with his sleeves rolled up and zero ego in sight, greeted them personally. "Evening, lads. Grab a table. Match is just kicked off." The boys blinked. "Seriously? We're good?" Marcus smiled. "Everyone's good here." That moment stuck. One of the lads recorded a quick clip, later posted it on TikTok with the caption, "Thought we'd get bounced. Instead, we got the best seat. Palmer owns this place and it's class. Respect." It exploded overnight. The pub's bookings jumped. But more importantly, its rep solidified. Not everyone knew the full backstory, but those who did, they respected it even more. Behind the scenes, Palmer kept things simple. He visited when he wanted, checked the books, reviewed staff feedback, occasionally dropped a quiet word to Marcus or the floor staff. Nothing flashy, just presence. Even the Chelsea squad took notice. A few of the lads started swinging by. One night, Reece James walked in, no reservation, cap down, seated within minutes. No fuss, no flex. That was the magic. It became the pub where you could be yourself. Whether you were a millionaire footballer or a post-shift delivery driver, you got the same nod, the same service, the same seat if it was free. And all of it traced back to one cold evening, one hoodie, and one man who didn't need to be recognized to know his worth. It was a Thursday morning when Cole Palmer found himself in the back of a black cab, headed to a studio in Soho. Not for a photo shoot. Not for a boot launch, for something rarer, a proper sit-down interview. Not about tactics or goals or who had the best drip in the dressing room. This was about life off the pitch. The journalist was sharp but respectful. A bit older, a bit more old school. The kind that knew when to push and when to let silence breathe. "So, Cole," he asked, mid-interview, "you've built a serious name for yourself on the pitch this season. But I've been hearing a few whispers. Quiet investments, personal projects. There's one that keeps coming up. A pub?" Palmer smirked. "Yeah, that one's real." The journalist leaned in. "Why a pub? You're 22. Most lads your age are blowing cash on watches and motors." Cole leaned back, relaxed. "I'm into spaces, atmosphere, places where people can just be themselves." The interviewer nodded. "Bit deeper than just owning a bar, then?" Palmer chuckled lightly. "Yeah, it's not about pints. It's about energy." And then came the question. "We heard a rumor. Something about a manager not recognizing you? Turning you away?" Cole paused, not defensive, just thoughtful. "Yeah, that happened." The room stayed quiet. The journalist let it hang. "What did you do?" he asked finally. Palmer's answer came calm, composed. "I didn't fire him." A beat. Then he added, "I gave him a second chance. And that was it. No grand story, no drama. Just the most mature response a man his age could give." The clip went viral within 24 hours. Fans called it the coldest flex of the year. Pundits said Palmer wasn't just playing like a veteran, he was thinking like one. Even rival fans had to respect it. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know more. But Palmer didn't post about the pub, didn't tag it. He let the story speak for itself. Back at the pub, things carried on. Tables full, service smooth, staff grounded. A small quote from the interview was printed and quietly framed near the front entrance. It read, "You don't need to shout to be heard. Just move right." Marcus saw it every day, and every time he straightened his back just a little more. Customers would often ask, "Do you think Cole still comes in?" No one ever gave a straight answer, because that was the whole point. The legacy wasn't about being seen. It was about what was left behind. A standard. A message. A story whispered from one guest to the next, and in that silence, respect echoed loud. It was a rainy Friday night in West London, streets slick, streetlights casting gold reflections on the wet pavement. A steady drizzle fell, nothing dramatic, just enough to make people pull their collars up. The pub was busy but not loud, tables full, glasses clinking softly, low music rolling through the air like smoke, the kind of night the place was built for. Comfort, warmth, no fuss. At exactly 9:14 p.m., the front door opened. In stepped a man wearing a black hoodie, gray joggers, and worn-in trainers, hood up, head down. For a second, nobody noticed. He blended in, intentionally. Marcus was by the bar, watching everything the way he always did now, focused, aware. He glanced at the door, paused, then smiled. "Evening, Mr. Palmer," he said quietly, walking over. "No scene, no show." Palmer gave him a nod. "Same booth?" Marcus gestured with his hand. "Already waiting for you." Palmer walked across the room, unnoticed by most. One or two guests gave him a second look. One guy elbowed his mate, whispering, "That's him, right?" But no one approached. He slid into the corner booth, just like he had that very first night. Except this time, no tension, no judgment, just calm. Lucy, the bartender, brought over his usual without asking, a green tea, no sugar. "Appreciate it," Palmer said, soft but sincere. He sat there for a while, not on his phone, not looking for attention, just soaking in the space, watching how it worked, how it flowed. Across the room, a delivery driver came in, soaked from the rain, looked out of place, looked unsure. Marcus spotted him immediately. "Come in, mate," he said with a warm smile. "Sit wherever's free. We'll sort you." Palmer clocked it, the small things, the gestures, the shift. It was working. He stayed another hour, ate something small, tipped well, said little. When he got up to leave, he passed Marcus near the bar. "You've done well," Cole said. Simple, direct. Marcus nodded, not trying to over-explain, just accepted the praise. "Appreciate the second chance." Palmer held his stare for half a second longer, then pulled his hood up and walked into the London rain. Outside, a black cab waited. He climbed in and was gone. No press, no fans, no noise. But inside the pub, everyone who knew. That wasn't just a visit. That was a message. The owner didn't need cameras, didn't need suits, didn't need to be loud, because the loudest thing in the building that night was respect. And that was the real legacy of Cole Palmer, not the goals, not the headlines, just the quiet power of a man who walks in as if he owns the place, because he does.